Okay, that was a background beat by no shoot, I already closed the tab. Sound Reality, something like that. Some sort of royalty-free song. I'm not sure. I don't remember. What I do remember is that we're here right now. Hi everyone. How are you doing? Sorry, not hi everyone. Hello everyone. Being too gosh darn cordial. Being too gosh darn casual on my podcast stream. I can't have that. That ain't allowed. I gotta be professional. People might watch this VOD one day. Probably not today, probably not tomorrow, but one day, surely. Maybe. Anyways, welcome back. It's Draft Diary. It's been a minute. It's been a long minute. It's been nearly 2 months. Uh, Things have changed a little bit. It turns out I hate editing videos. I hate it a lot. It takes too much dang time, and there's no really good results. Especially for this series, which is I've turned it into a podcast officially. I no longer care. I no longer give a hoot if people watch this or not because whatever, man. Whatever, man. Whatever. It's whatever, man. It's whatever. Um, I have here two beverages with me today. I have a coffee and I have a water. We'll see if they survive the stream. I'll try not to drink directly into the mic, but if you hear me taking a sip, sorry. Box got a drink. Got to stay hydrated. I also missed my afternoon coffee, so I'm chugging back one now. It's just a decaf. I don't want to have to get up and go use the washroom and whatnot. So, well, we'll see. I just wanted a hot beverage. I had a bit of a late lunch. So I wanted a little something to settle my stomach. And I know what you're thinking. Coffee to settle your stomach? Yeah, let me live my life, all right? I'm a box. You'll also notice, hi, hello everyone. I'm here in the middle of your screen. That's pretty fun, right? Right here. Meh. I'm just sitting here in the middle. I've moved. I picked up the desk and I shifted it over to my right, your left. I thought this would be more appropriate. Actually, I was recording something way back when, and it kind of fell through, but I left myself here. I left my stuff here, and so that's why I'm here now. This is where I live, right in the middle. As this series is a podcast now, I no longer care about the aesthetics of the show. People might listen to this, but they probably won't. I'm going to come back and listen to it because I need to. But if other people don't, if other people do, I don't give a hoot. I don't give two hoots. I ain't no owl. I'm a box. As previously stated, I'm a New World sparrow, as the name suggests. And you can look that up if you want. You can go Wikipedia that. How's everyone doing today? I hope everyone's good. I hope maybe somebody shows up, and if they do, great. If they don't, whatever. Robin was here. Robin's not here anymore because they're busy, and that's fine. They have a life. I also have a life, and I was busy. I just came back from the optometrist. Nothing big, nothing scary. Eye exam. Told the doctors my eyes hurt. Doctor said, hey, have you tried spectacles? And I said, no, doctor, could you tell me more about this interesting new invention called spectacles? And they didn't really. They just said, here's a prescription. It's a very, very, very tiny prescription. It's actually one of the smallest prescriptions we prescribe to people with eyes. And I said, boy, that sucks. And they said, yes, but you clearly need them because you work in front of a screen most of your time, and that's hurting your eyes. It's making them too nearsighted. But just the one. The other one's fine, and that's why your eyes get sore, because the other one's doing the heavy lifting. And I said, shucks. Shucks, doc, that stinks. And then they said, yeah, it does. Pay me. And I said, I am very poor. Here's my money. And then I ran away, and I ran out of that optometrist crying. No, I didn't. I'm being hyperbolic. It wasn't that bad. The stuff about my eyes was true. The crying, not so true. I cried on the inside. It was a lot of money. I'm very poor now. Like, I was poor before. I'm very poor now. I don't have any money. I'm broke. But that's why we're here, right? So that's why I'm here. I'm broke. I'm trying to get people to read my book. Not really. I'm just here to flap my gums, to be honest with you. It's how long have we been streaming? Nearly 10 minutes now, and I still haven't talked about what's going on behind me here. Same formula as always, folks. Notes on the left. My book's on the right. You can read if you want. You can read my notes. You can just sit here and listen to me. This is very low energy, very high yappification. Yappitude. The yap to visuals ratio is way off. Somebody who talks this much, doing this little, look at me. I just bob up and down. That's all I got. I hope PNG Tuber works better. I'm back on my laptop, and we've never had problems. As far as I remember, PNG Tuber is way more stable on my laptop. So hopefully it doesn't crash. If it does crash, that's kind of funny. It's a podcast anyway, so like I said, no one's looking. I mean, I don't have to sit here with my shirt on. I could be naked. You could take this box off. But then you would be forced to endure the horrors that have no end. the inexplicable horrors, the endless, depthless, frightful horrors. But that's just, that's just every day anymore. Under the Trump administration, that's just every day. Anyways, if I get black bagged during this stream, y'all know why. But on to more important matters. Yes, I was just at the optometrist, so I don't have a thing prepared. I don't have a chapter summary prepared, so we're going off the rails a little bit. If you can't tell, I'm already talking a lot. I'm going to try to surmise this based off what I remember of the chapter. I read it not too long ago. As most of you know, as anybody who watches this series and has made it to episode 22 should know, I've been writing these notes. My notes are all done. I'm actually writing draft 2 right now. But I finished them earlier this year, late last year. So it's pretty fresh in my mind. We've got chapter 32 here, chapter 32, Wretch. Starts with a little poem, right? We pick up not chronologically immediately where we left off, but as far as the action is concerned, we pick up where we left off from last time. Teal is she finds herself in this option. She finds herself in this office, surrounded by her superiors, her teachers, her headmaster. There's also the chancellor, I think I call them, the head honcho of the school. And things are kind of weird. The atmosphere of the room is very oppressive for some reason. Things are looming over her. And she's basically just getting berated and scolded and thrown over the coals. She's not having a good time. These teachers are not being very nice. They're being a little racist even at times. But that's kind of, the first part here. And essentially they're scolding Teal on wow, you suck at school. You suck at magic. Why are you even here? Teal really doesn't put up much of a defense because she's feeling awful and terrible. And the chancellor here, in a very with way too much gravitas for the situation, they're like, nope. Not only are we expelling you, Teal, not only are we expelling you, Miss Evergarden, we're banishing you. And Teal's like, what? What do you mean you're banishing me? And then they kick her into a giant mirror. She's thrust into the portal that leads her to somewhere. And this, I'll say it now, this part of the book, this part of the dream sequence, because we are still in this dream sequence, this part is where things get pretty unhinged. Things have been fairly tied together as of yet. There's been a few hiccups here and there, but chapter 32 here is when things go off the rails. And that's fine, that's fun. Teal gets pushed into this portal mirror, and she falls. She falls and she falls and she falls and she falls. She lands in this weird dream dystopia world. It's basically just a floor. From there, there's a little bit of body horror here. I won't get into details. This monster shows up. She almost kind of manifests it out of her fear and loathing. And this monster shows up, and it's this hideous abomination that's made up of black goo and eyeballs, and it's kind of just judging her and being oppressive and threatening her. And Teal's pretty wigged out, if you can imagine it. If you were stuck, or if one were stuck in a room with a giant abomination made of eyeballs and pus and gross stuff, they'd probably be a little freaked out. So Teal's not having a good time. Teal is straight up not having a good time right now, and that's fine. Well, I mean, it's not fine. She's having a terrible time, and she would say it was far from fine. There's some weird stuff that goes on here. She's basically just trying to keep her composure, right? She's frozen with fright. And she wants to run, but she doesn't know where she can run to because she doesn't really know where she is because reality is falling apart at the seams around her. But she can feel that this abomination, this abyssal creature is judging her, and it's too much like her teachers and her chancellors disgusted with her. There's this rumbling. There's almost like an earthquake that happens soon after, and Teal falls into a fissure. Teal descends further into this dark black void that is the portal she's been kicked into. From there, hey, if you can imagine it, if you can believe it, she hits the ground again. She hits some sort of weird surface. She's not exactly sure what's going on. She seems like she's laying on grass at first, um, but then she can't move. She can't move. She's struggling. This grass, as she focuses her vision on what she can see, is strange and gangly, and it's a little more like moss or lichen. And it dawned on her that, wait a minute, no, they're little hands. These are little hand spore things, and they start crawling all over her, and they start clutching at her, and while she tries to resist them, more and more pile onto her. They crawl over one another, and before she knows it, they're clawing at her eyelids. They're pulling at her mouth. They're like forcing themselves inside of her. It's pretty disgusting. Teal's stuck. She can't move. She wriggles. She struggles. And before she knows it, she's just absolutely smothered by these little hand spore things. She finds herself sinking, descending lower and lower, pulled into the ground until she flings her eyes open, right? In the next instant, she's completely fine. She's standing there. She finds herself in a room, almost this like inexplicably large room with wooden floorboards. She tries running a little bit, but there's a spotlight that illuminates something in front of her, and oh goodness, oh no, there before her stands what she is pretty sure is her half sister Azur. Except it doesn't quite look right. Azur looks off. Her armor is falling apart. Her skin seems a little discolored. And as Teal approaches fearfully, she sees that, like, oh wait, like, no, this looks like my sister, but it ain't my sister. She calls out to the figure, hoping to add clarity to her situation. But when Azur finally lifts their head, if it is exactly Azur, if it isn't, we're about to find out. They lift their head, and Teal can see that, this kind of hideous reproduction of her half-sister has this disfigured, dismantled face, almost as if the skin is sloughing off their visage here. There's this bit here where Azur, right, because Azur only has one eye, so Azur often wears an eye patch, and this is talked about earlier in the book. But there's this part here where this Azur zombie, I'm just going to call it this Azur zombie, reaches up and begins to peel off their eye patch bit by bit. And from the eye patch, just this wave of spiders, I think it is. Yeah, this wave of spiders, this torrent, this jet of eight-legged creatures just funnel out of her eyeball. And they lurch out of the body and hurl their way towards Teal as a solid mass. And they start wriggling all over her, climbing all over her, grabbing her. Teal's freaking out, right? She tries to like kick them off, but she's only one little half elf against a million bajillion spiders. And then as her body is covered, she finds that she's suddenly, she can feel the momentum of the world around her change. And she's rising quickly, up and up and up and up and up. But she's seated. There's something beneath her. She's sitting down. And she can't really tell. Wait, weren't there spiders? Wasn't there something I was doing? Wait a minute. Where was my sister? What's happening? What's going on? Where did the headmasters go? And she's thrust up into this chamber. And we get to the meat of the chapter here. Most of the chapter takes place in this last little scene, where Teal is... she's kind of in this elevator, so to speak, on this chair, right? Like she was sitting. And as the lift goes up and it's going at quite a pace, it suddenly stops and Teal finds herself in this very lavish hall. It extends on both sides of her endlessly. There's a table right in front of her. There's like nice wallpaper, nice wooden molding, the works, the Ritz. There's sconces, there's brass sconces, there's candelabras, there's a shiny chandelier. It's a really decadent place. And then in front of her, and this is why the chapter takes up so much space, this part of it anyway, in front of Teal is this feast. And I just dive into talking about all the different types of food, right? Because this is a dream sequence. Teal, if you can believe it, Teal is going to be dreaming about food. And she takes her sweet time here to just sit and drink it all in. Not literally, just with her eyes. She's taking in all these morsels, all of what's on display, from the entrees to the appetizers, the amuse-bouche, the desserts, the soups, the salads, the drinks, the hors d'oeuvres, maybe. There's some of those in there. The aperitifs, you name it, it's there, right? I spent a solid like 5 pages just talking about food. Um, and then it dawns on Teal, wait a minute, wasn't I waiting for something? What, wasn't I doing something? And she starts thinking about that fella from chapter 29. Let's hear it for chapter 29. The Swain starts digging into her little mind again. Wait a minute, wasn't I waiting for someone? Wasn't I waiting for them? Weren't we supposed to get a drink? And Teal starts thinking more. Wait, how did I get here? What were the steps that led me to this spot? There's all of this lovely food, but how did it get here? Where is here? And as Teal starts gaining clarity, as she becomes more and more lucid in her dream state, she starts asking all these questions. And as she asks these questions, it leads her to second guess her present situation. Sure, there's this table with this lavish meal in front of her, but where did it come from? How did it get here? Why am I here? Where is everyone else? Wasn't I at the Sages? I think even passes her mind. And she looks down at this table of food, and skeptical of it, she reaches forward. She grabs something or other. What was it? What is it? I'm looking for it here. What is it that she grabs? She's got a headache. Oh yeah, there's a nectarine, right? We build up the scene towards this beautiful, perfect, almost heavenly nectarine sitting on like a silk pillow at the other end of the table. And this is where things kind of culminate, where Teal's like, oh my gosh, is that a nectarine? Is this the thing I've been hounded by this whole time? Ever since I went to that market with the terrible merchant? Is this finally my nectarine? And after these thoughts, after these worries, she reaches across the table and grabs a nectarine. She takes a bite out of it, turns to sand in her mouth, just smoke and dust and ash. And just like that, everything shatters. Everything shatters around her. Her perception of everything is twisted. None of this is real. None of this matters. None of this is what she wants or what she hopes it to be. She's stuck. She doesn't know how she got here. She doesn't know where she's going from here. And Teal kind of snaps a little bit. Here at the end of the chapter, Teal goes a little nuts and she just pitches this nectarine at the wall. She hurls these plates around. She smashes food. She even, I think, at one point stands up on the table and starts stomping on this stuff. She grabs the chair that she was sitting on. She smashes it against the plates. She takes the posts that are broken off in her hand and she whips them around the room. And then in like a fit of hysteria, she grabs a candelabra from nearby and she licks, she licks. Yeah, she gives it a big old lick. She kicks it over, she lights a fire, she takes these chair legs to the fire, she spreads it around, and as she's standing there in her crazed state, she just laughs. She just laughs and laughs and laughs, and as she laughs, the fire not only consumes the entire room, but it catches her garments and burns her up too. And as she stands there with this deranged delight of destruction, there's a beeping noise. Beep, 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 beep. And that happens over and over again until we get to a point where Teal is singed and burning and in pain. But that's all that's left is a little beep, beep, beep. And as to what happens next, that's for chapter 33, because that's the end of the chapter, folks. We end on a low note, a really low note. There's just some crazy shit. And then the chapter ends with this weird beeping. And we'll have to come back next time and find out what that all means. But with that out of the way, yeah, that's the chapter. That's a very broad gist of it. there's a lot more nuance in this chapter. Similar to chapter 31, where I'm paraphrasing a lot, there's a lot going on here that I can gloss it over. I can gloss it over. I can gloss over it rather quickly. I'd rather not gloss it over. I don't even have that much lip gloss for starters. I've got like a Blistex in my coat. That's a lip balm though. That's different. That's not lip gloss. So from there, we can change gears here. We've got my notes here, right? Notes on the left. You remember the drill. Hi notes. How are you? It's been a minute. We got 9 pages here, so I think we can probably run through this all in a fairly decent amount of time. And like, hey, I don't know, if we run under 2 hours, which I'm pretty sure we won't, because we never do. If we run under 2 hours, maybe I'll do some drawing. Probably just some doodles. If you can't tell, I have very little planned for this stream. Like I said, I literally just came from the doctor, and I thought I'd be earlier. I thought I'd be here at home at about 2. I thought I'd have time to prep and go over things, but I didn't. I did not get home at 2. Life happens, if you can believe it. And if you're curious, I had lunch with a relation of mine. I had a Reuben sandwich. It was very good. I was gonna go to 7-Eleven and buy a hot dog, but my relation. This is kind of a funny anecdote. Yeah, we can have an aside. I haven't had an aside yet. There was the optometrist, and then basically down the road a little ways at the corner was a 7-Eleven. And I thought, okay, well, I'll just go there and grab my lunch. But my relation they were meeting somebody at a restaurant right beside the 7-Eleven. So I got chatting with them, and they were like, no, no, we have a chair here for you. Why don't you just come over here and eat? And I went, I really wanted that 7-Eleven hot dog, but all right. So I went in and I had a Reuben sandwich, and I've had a Reuben before, but not like this. It had sauerkraut on it. I've never had sauerkraut before. I mean, like, I've tried it, but I've never forced myself to eat it. It was weird. I don't know if I liked it. I think I would have just preferred like pickled onions or something. There was even a pickle there. There was a pickle on the side. It was really good. I would have just preferred pastrami and pickle. And mustard. The rye bread, though, wow, it was good. And I had soup with it? It was good soup. I should have soup again. Anyways, before I get thinking with my stomach here, let's dive into the notes. Let me try to be focused, right? If I try to be focused, then when Robin comes back, they won't yell at me. They won't yell at me and say, Junco, were you having ADD during your own stream again? And I'll say, gulp, no, we were focused. We did our work, right, chat, right? If anyone is in chat, if anyone can say anything, please vouch for me, right? We're working hard here, right, chat? We're definitely not goofing off. I would never goof off. I'm a very serious individual. So we start our notes here in the first line here. Maybe you can see, maybe you can't. I'm just patting myself out. Just patting myself out? That sounds a little dirty. I'm patting myself on the back for the haiku at the beginning here. I like it. It's a good haiku. It's got some good subtext to it. I don't know. It's hard to read into. Like, if you don't, I don't want to toot my horn that much either, but I'm trying to, geez, I went really far on my notes here. I'm trying to allude to things without saying what they are. I'm trying to, I don't know, I guess just do what haikus do best, right? Present evocative imagery, allude to nuanced themes, without really saying what they are, and then, but also being like, oh, but no, this is important to what we're talking about right now. So if you connect things here, right, like who's the water koi, right? Who would be the koi in this situation? Probably the vein one, who's bright, right? Why are they hollow? Wait a minute, that's a weird word choice. Hollow can also mean shallow, right? Hollow water can just be water that isn't very deep, which is where a koi would reside. But we can also have a dual meaning here, right? Dual meaning. Hollow, the koi is hollow, but maybe they are just living in shallow water. What good are their skills when herons stalk the shore, right? Who are the herons? What good are those scales? What are you talking about, the scales? Well, we've got a kind of a vain individual here. I won't get too deep into it, but I really like this haiku. Of all the poems I've put in this book, this one is the strongest, even though it's probably the shortest. I probably thought about it for quite a long time. Good job, me in the past. Keep that poem in there. We dip into this initial setup where Teal is in this office. She's surrounded by paraphernalia and furniture that seems warped and distorted. And I like the setup of this initial scene. Um, there's some really good ideas, but some of the presentation here is rather sticky. Um, like I said, the furniture and stuff is distorted. Um, but Teal should almost be sitting here thinking, wait a minute, is the room around me growing? Or am I sinking into it? Like, why do I feel like I'm distorted? Why does everything feel unreal right now? We're getting to a point in the dream sequence where Teal's starting to second guess what's going on. She just came out of this weird out of body experience in the last chapter. She got knocked out and she's coming to in this room that doesn't seem like it should exist. But regardless, she is existing in it. I hope my mic's picking up fine. I keep turning away from it. I haven't used the boom mic for one of these draft diary streams yet. Um, Hopefully it sounds good. It's not peaking at all. I think I'm getting good readings. It's been really solid for my Zelda streams for our Let's Play series. So I hope it's holding up here as well. A mid-thought tangent. Don't mind me. In fact, get used to them because they're going to keep coming and they don't stop coming. I could have another one right now. I could tell you all about how I just watched the Puss in Boots movie again, but I won't. No, nay, I couldn't. I wouldn't. So anyway, my favorite part in that movie... I'm joking. This is a joke. Haha. We have fun here. We have fun, right? We have fun, everyone. We make jokes here. So Teal's in this room. And there's just this really odd, almost pervasive, oppressive atmosphere. And we just kind of need to present it in a different light, I think. I don't think we're forceful enough with it. Um, we're trying, yeah, we're trying to build this scene that Teal is almost imprisoned. And we're doing it in a way to illustrate that even though it's a dream, we're pushing forward this idea that Teal has, in her past, felt trapped by the bureaucracy and the hierarchy of her former academic career. And we just need to kind of push this forward. We need to push this idea that Teal feels trapped, that she feels stuck, that she's fearful, that she's scared and oppressed and almost caged, like the little bird she is. And we can do that in a lot of ways, but I think a good one is to reinforce the idea that yes, the furniture is kind of growing up around her. These these other individuals in the room with her, if it is even a room, are looming over her. They are kind of stretching oddly like gangly trees, hanging their limbs above her as if they're reaching out, about to grab her and snatch her and rip her up. There should be a really repulsive air to this whole scene. Like, I don't even know, maybe if I don't know, it would be uncomfortable to read, right? I'm trying to say I want it to be uncomfortable to read. I want readers to go through this scene and go, oh, I don't want to be there. Teal. You know when you watch a scene in a movie and it's just so uncomfortable that you skip it because you're like, okay, I know what's going to happen. I know that the scene is bad. I can't sit through this right now. And you just skip to the next scene, right? You got the context. You're like, okay, Teal is being bullied. Teal is having a bad time. Teal is under like academic pressure and she's getting yelled at for a thing that wasn't really even her fault. Great, I'll just skip the scene. Boop, boop, boop. That's kind of how I want it to be while reading. I want it to like leave kind of a nasty pit in readers' stomachs. And we've got the right idea. There's some really good thoughts here, right? Like having the faculty be here, having them berate Teal, I think is all wonderful and necessary. But we just got to push the envelope a little bit more and make this whole scene repulsive.
There's a bit here where we're talking about Teal's uniform, right? I think she's staring down at her knees or something, and she's looking at how scuffed up her uniform is. Um, but we've never described it. We've never talked about the school uniform before now. And what a missed opportunity that is. Why have we not talked about the uniform? I have gone out of my way to draw the school uniform several times, right? Just for these instances where, oh yeah, Teal's at school. I didn't ever know if this was gonna, like, shoot. When did I last draw the school uniform? Years ago. Years ago. I think even before I was writing the book. But um, I was unaware if there was going to be a scene in the school. I know I want to talk about Teal's schooling, right? That's a big part of her life. But here we are now in chapter 32, probably going to be the last time we ever bring up her academic career, Teal's magical academy. And we never talk about the school uniform. We never talk about the little embellishment, how it's covered with these dangly, jingling bells, how each bell represents 1 year of a student's academic pathway, how they have different markings denoting a student's different field of study, right? They're colored differently. They have badges of the academy's logo on them and stuff. They've this and that, right? They've got all sorts of little oddities, little cuteness. They're formal. They're really like preppy school uniforms, but they're also a little dated. They've got weird cloaks and these nice boots, right? These really fancy leather boots that all the students wear. But I don't talk about any of it. Man, that's such a shame. Really missed opportunity. So I don't think it'll happen here per se. I don't think it'll happen in chapter 32. At the very latest, it will have to happen in chapter 32. But just going forward, me in the future, let's just include some little odds and ends. Just talk about the school uniform a little bit. Even if we just mention how Teal is wearing different clothes and this is how it looks, just so we know that, oh, yeah, okay, so it's not just Teal ripped out of the present. She's not here right now. She's in different clothes. Has she always been in the different clothes? Is what we were just experiencing, chapters 1 through 27, was that a dream? Is this the part where she's, huh, what's going on here, right? With just another little garnish so we can trick the readers into having a bit of disbelief here. Um, so Teal has a little moment here where she's thinking, I don't even know, because she has this back and forth where she's internally rebuffing the headmasters as they scold her. Um, it shifts into a little bit of self-loathing, and she has some thoughts regarding her past, but we don't ever mention that she was waiting for the Swain. We don't ever mention that she was waiting for someone. Once again, a very small missed opportunity that she should be lamenting here that she was unable to, or that she still was waiting to meet up with the Swain. And she should be kind of confused, but also a little heartbroken, like, oh, I thought they were coming back. Oh, wait. And she should maybe even have this moment of like, oh, wait, no, I'm the one. I'm the one who was supposed to, like, I'm the one who isn't there right now. Oh, that's not good, right? And by doing that, we're really, 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 really subtly hinting that, like, hey, guess what? Teal is the one who wasn't there. More on this later. We learn more about why that's important later, but hey, just know, like, we could put that in there now. We could put this in here now. Teal should be at a place, but she isn't right now. Great. Super. Thanks, Teal. Um, so this is a kind of a rebuttal I have. And maybe not a rebuttal, that's probably not a good word, but last time, if y'all remember last time, if you remember last episode from 2 months ago, we were talking about how we want to make some of the students a little more mysterious, how we want to omit their quotes. What they say isn't words, right? They're not speaking in words. We as readers only comprehend that they're talking to Teal through context, right? The boy at the back of the class relents that they struggled with their homework. Teal agrees with them by saying blah, 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 right? We only ever know what Teal actually says. But if somebody's talking to Teal, we only really kind of give readers, this is what they said, right? Here's what they said. You don't actually get to hear the words because Teal in this dream sequence, Teal in her present, can't really understand. She's struggling to hear what they're saying, but she still knows, right? She can hold a conversation, but she's always a little confused about what they're saying word for word, but she understands on a weird level what's being said to her. And do we continue that here? This is such a personal setting. This is such a deeply, not only is the setting disturbing, like we said, right? She's trapped in this room with these elders, with these superiors of her. But the fact that she's being scolded too is so much more personal. Um, we'd have to basically take this entire first scene where Teal's being heckled and rewrite it. And I wonder, is that worth it? Is it worth it all? Um, and I think that I kind of come upon the point that if we're going to use that as a theme to break apart the dream and reality, right? Because this is something we've been struggling with. Do we maintain holistically the split between Teal dreaming and Teal being awake, Teal being conscious? And I think this is something we can, this is a hill we can die on, right? So to speak. This is something we can take our flagpole and jam it into the ground and say, nope, this is where we're defining this is a dream, right? This could be the one constant between the dream and reality, that Teal never hears who she's talking to, right? Because we need some things. We need some things to stay consistent. Otherwise, readers are going to be too confused. I want them to be a little confused. I want people to second guess when they come through these chapters and be like, this is a weird sequence. Is this a dream? Junco, is this a dream? Could it be that you're trying to pull a ruse? That you're trying to fool me? And I'll say, yes, reader, how clever of you. You've discovered my ploy. It was a dream all along. Yes, I fooled you, you silly goose. And now, wait for this next part. And then I pull the rug out from under their feet. And they go, ah, you've tricked us. You sly imp. You've tricked us again. I think my mic peaked there, so I'm going to apologize for that now. But yeah, they can be a little confused. But too much confusion is not good, right? You never want to go overboard. Unless you do because of some reason. But I don't right now, right? And I'm just saying, I think this could be a post in which we hang things from. I think it's a really good tool. This is such a good tool for us to use to define, to draw a line in the sand and say, hi, readers, if you didn't pick up on it, we're still not using the words. Remember how before in the book, people had words that they were saying to Teal, and Teal had to kind of decipher them sometimes because people don't talk directly. Here, people are just talking directly. Teal isn't getting their words. Teal's just getting the core meaning of what the conversation is about. That's kind of weird, isn't it? And I'll jab my elbow in their ribs a little bit. And hopefully readers pick up on what's going on. I really hope no one's talking in the chat because my mic is right in front of chat. I cannot see it. I have to lean over awkwardly to read chat. So hopefully no one's saying anything. I don't think anyone's even here, to be honest with you. But just so that's out there in the air. But yeah, we should, I think I'm leaning towards we should definitely maintain this idea going forward. And just as some additional remarks, maybe the only dialogue that Teal hears are things she's actually remembering. Things that were very overtly, because part of this, another layer of why this sequence is weird is that, yeah, it's tapping into her memories a little bit. Dreams are weird like that. We will dream about things that we've experienced and we're re-remembering, right? And that's kind of, at least as far as I've heard, that's how the brain remembers. It cycles through things subconsciously in our sleep. And it's like, oh, I have to filter some of these things out. So we're going to pass through them. And the things that you are more likely to remember are the more vivid things that happen, and they get locked away in your dreams, and then they start coming up. And if it's stuff you have to kind of parse, right? Because that's why you have dreams about stuff that freaks you out or stuff that you're stressed about, is because it's your dream being like, hey, I'm your subconscious. We have to deal with this because it's stressing you out, dum-dum. And stress means I die. Did you know that? Stress means you die. If you're stressed, you die, right? It kills you faster. The body wasn't built to be stressed. I mean, it was a little bit, right, for survival, but all the time, we live in a weird time where there's just a bombardment of stresses. And our dumb, fleshy meat sacks only have one response, and it's, I'm scared. Oh no, pump me full of adrenaline. But our society says, no, 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 you can't be adrenaline. No, 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 that makes you dangerous. You need an outlet. What outlet is there? Oh, well, just pay me $500 for one. I'm getting off topic here, and I peaked the mic again. I'm sorry. Capitalism makes me angry. Um, so yeah, we could have phrases that Teal remembers. Teal distinctly remembers these things happening and these things being said to her. And we could maybe keep things like that, right? Maybe some of the phrases that the chancellor says, or maybe a one line or two that one of the headmasters speaks, could be quotes. They could be direct mentions of things Teal that were said to Teal that bothered her, that stuck with her, right? Maybe even if we go back into the previous chapter where they're discussing their last words, right? Teal and the rival have their last words. Maybe Teal remembers that word for word because what the rival said to her bothered her so much. Just stuff like that. We're once again blurring the lines between is this a dream or are these memories? And I think that, right, as opposed to what I just said earlier about drawing a line in the sand, I think that is a thing I'm okay with people being confused about. I'm definitely okay with people coming into this and being like, okay, well, this is different from chapter 27. Yes, I know that. But as they're swimming through these chapters, I'm totally okay with readers going, is Teal just dreaming? Or these are memories? What's going on here? And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that never having an answer. Because either way, it's good context. If it is a dream, it's building Teal. If they are her memories, guess what? They still build Teal as a character. And it lends a notion of mystique, right? These are things that people can talk about and go, well, this is how I interpreted that scene. And their friend will say, well, I don't think that's quite right. You see, there was this detail in chapter 33 where Teal thought this, and it was a direct quote. So that means it's part of her memory. And the friend A can retort and say, well, I don't think that's actually what the author meant by that. And then they'll go through and they'll watch this video and they'll go, oh, that is what they meant. Except they won't. Neither of them will exist because they're both imaginary, and I don't think anybody's ever going to read my book and get to the point where they're discussing it analytically. Anyway, that's just an idea. That's just a little idea I had. Blah, 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 blah. Right? This is me just giving examples. We can move on. Teal should be in a lot of pain, right? Teal just got out of this big fight where the roof collapsed on her. She should be in pain. Why don't we ever talk through it here about how much pain she's in? Her garments are ripped. She's torn up. She's probably bleeding. She's probably, like we mentioned, a headache. Yeah, she's probably got a concussion. She's not having a good time right now. Dead ass. We don't talk about that. Why don't we talk about that all? That's kind of weird, don't you think? We don't talk about her pain. Future me, just tie that in for me. Well, yeah, she's in a bit of pain. Just don't forget to bring that up. Thanks, brother. Thanks, sister. Thanks, being. I don't know what you are. You're just a little creep, aren't you? That's how we like you. So yeah, we get into the spot where Teal's having this internal back and forth. She hears something and then she retorts internally. We get a really good sense of how scathing Teal is. We haven't had a point in the book. We've had points where Teal's pretty judgy, but this is actively a point where Teal is inside being like, I hate these people. I actively revile these people. I want the worst for them. Like, Teal's been pretty nice for the most part, right? And I think that's a good way to look at Teal. Teal's pretty kind for the most part. She errs on compassion. But once you push her buttons, once you get on her wrong side, Teal is immediately ready to be like, oh, I hate you. Oh, I will go to my way to do nasty things to you. Like, I do not want you in my life. I will go to my way to do things that make sure you are not in my life, and that will involve me going very far away from you. And if I am forced to deal with you like I am these jerks, then I will be a very, very petty, spiteful little half-elf. And I think this is fun. This builds her nicely as a character without projecting her very well, right? Like, we get some really good little zingers here where she's she's, judging their statements. She's balancing them. She's uh, almost, I don't want to say heckling. She's not really berating them. She's not bullying them, but internally she's churning over these sentiments that are sour and bitter and spiteful, right? Because she sits. This whole scene is just Teal being really indignant, and that's good. We like a bit of indignance from our half elf. Um, I could, right, and this is just a little suggestion. That's why it's kind of just pocketed in here. Um, we could just have the rival's name here, right? We could name drop them for future reference because they might be somebody who comes back in a later book. No spoilers, but they might. I haven't actually decided, but I've thought, oh, well, they could, right? And they would be a good character to have come back in a later book. So having them, having the Chancellor here just name drop them, having one of the headmasters just mention their name, it can just appear once. That's all we need. It can just it'll just be in reference to the fight that just happened. All we need is their name. Just slip it right in there, whip, and there it's done. Job done. So that later on, if people ever read the sequel, they go, "Hey, wait a minute, wasn't that the dude? Wasn't that the guy from the dream? You're telling me the dream was real?" And like, no, it wasn't real, but like parts of it were, right? We just talked about this. Some parts of dreams are just memories. Okay, get over it. I got to take another little sip of my coffee here. Give me a second. I forgot how hard it is to just talk. It's hard enough to talk to people, to talk to no one. Jeez. My coffee's getting cold. I don't know if it'll make it. I hate cold coffee. I hate it with a passion. You know what I don't hate, though? I don't hate our sponsor for today's recording. Just kidding. No one would ever sponsor me. I'm a filthy communist. I'm not a communist, folks. I'm a social democrat. That's a really funny joke to anybody who's a leftist, but not for my fans, not for my followers. What are they called on YouTube? Subscribers. Not for my subscribers. Do 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 do. Okay, so there's this notion here of Teal remaining stagnant. And we should rephrase this so that Teal exemplifies a little more ire, that she has kind of some more wrath going on here, that she's really kind of getting pissed off at this point. Right now, she just thinks this is stupid, right? And that's delightfully in character. That's wonderfully in character of Teal to think, right? She's being petty, she's being spiteful, she's being a little childish about it by being like, oh, this is stupid. This is awful. This is terrible. But what she really should be thinking is, man, what good is a headmaster who can't tell that like, I've been here since I was a child. I have been wrong. Do you not understand my situation? That I come from over the ocean? That I am the only half elf at this school? Do you not comprehend the racial implications, the kind of weight on my shoulders? So we just kind of need to twist this a little bit, right? And more specifically because this is the headmaster of Chronopolis that she's talking to. And they deal with time, right? So we need to kind of reinforce this idea that there is an irony here, that Teal is thinking in a kind of a witty way that, oh yeah, isn't it kind of a bad thing for the headmaster of Chronopolis to not understand the weight of time, the weight of my time, and the perspective of it in relation to my entire life, that I've been stuck here for 10 years? Like, sure, 10 miserable years, that's what you're saying, but how has it been for me, right? And that's what you should be thinking. Not just, this is stupid. It is absolutely stupid. But, she needs to just fix her thoughts a little bit, right? Make them more pointed. Yep, we can skip that one. There's a reference in here, but no one will get it, so I'll just skip it. At the very end of things, right, Teal gets told she's essentially going to be banished. She's going to be excommunicated. What's that called? She's going to be expelled. Um, and she has this brief, she basically pleads for her sentence. Yo, is someone here? KJL. Hello, KJL. Welcome to the party. I am going to keep rambling. Thanks for coming. Um, but yeah, Teal has this entreaty here. She essentially begs for her life, for her academic career, for her post academic career, right? Like she's not just saying, I need to stay here because I want to. She's saying, oh no, if I get kicked out of here, I'm going to be estranged from my family. Like I will probably be what's that called? What's that called when somebody gets kicked out of a family? Um, it's not coming to me. I guess estranged is the word, right? Isn't it? She's just like, cast out. She becomes a castaway, which is crazy. Um, so she has this begging thing, but I don't know. It's a very weird passage because she's putting herself out there, and she's describing all of these faults of hers. But these are faults that we as readers should already know, having read about them in the previous chapters, right? And these aren't things that should be expressed so explicitly. These are things we've picked up at readers subtly through subtext, through getting to know Teal a little bit better by questioning her motives and whatnot. Um, and this whole section where she's begging really just ruins the pacing. We're really putting a brakes on her banishment. We should be having this incline towards a climax where she gets, booted through this portal. But this whole segment here just stomps on that. We hit a plateau, and we don't want to hit a plateau. We want this tension to keep rising. But we put this pause on so that we can have Teal beg for her life by expressing parts of herself that we as readers kind of already know of. It muddles this whole scene, and I don't like it. I don't know about removing it entirely, right? It does come from an emotional place. Teal is definitely expressing herself. It's good character building, but I don't know if it needs to be here. If it does need to be here, right, for motivation, then it needs to be reworked. Um, my past self seems to disagree. My past self seems to think we should just omit this. We should just have Teal be flummoxed. She should just be like heartbroken and stupefied by the fact that the headmaster, this chancellor, is saying, "No, we're just going to banish you." Teal is just, her knees give out, her soul leaves her body, and she's just like, "But what do you what?" And then we just skip, right? We just smash cut straight to Teal getting grabbed and thrown through the portal. Um, but much like I've written here, that ruins the setup. So we're at a dilemma here where the pacing is bad, but we need some setup before we get banished here. So I think this is just gonna have to be. Sorry, everyone, my accent is starting to come out. Do forgive me. In these trying times, that's all we can really ask for is some peace and kindness and forgiveness in these trying times. Yeah, we're just gonna have to rewrite this entire scene, which is fine because I'm basically rewriting the entire book. So like no skin off my back. I don't have skin anyways. Um, but I don't know. I don't really have a great answer for how to fix it right now. Down the road, maybe I will. Does it really even need fixing? I don't know. I don't hate it. I just think it's kind of stupid. Why is Teal begging for her life? And sorry if this is picking up. I'm trying to fix the collar of my shirt. I don't have a costume for that, unfortunately. I'm kind of just fiddling with the buttons on my collar. It's come undone, which is, if this were a video, it'd be kind of embarrassing. Thankfully, I am a box on your screen, so I don't have to worry about that. I think the other collar is fine. Yeah, we're good. Okay, I got it all settled. But I don't know. I'll fix it.
I'll fix it. I'll figure it out. I'll fig it was me saying both of those phrases at the same time. So yeah, I'm stupid. Don't worry about me. Um, this last little bit here, this green note up here, I don't know if you can see my mouse, so it kind of fell off the page. This one up here, I'm kind of just saying what I alluded to earlier is that, okay, yes, we're hinting at the fact that this might be a memory, that some of these things really did happen to Teal at her school years, and that her plea here needs to take these biases, these experiences into account. But this is more like an overall issue, right? I'm waving my hands right now. I'm waving them like this. You can't see. I'm waving the problems away. Bye bye problems. That's a future me problem. I take the problems and I make more problems with them and I give them to my future self and I say, here, thank you. You're welcome. Enjoy. And my future self cries. We just got to fix this up, right? Teal gets banished. The whole idea is great. Teal groveling, Teal begging. We're missing some things here. We gotta address these issues. Um, there's some weird word usage here. The Before Teal gets banished, the whole apartment, this whole office seems to loom over her as if it's reaching out to grab her, right? Because hey, guess what? Guess what the chancellor and the headmasters end up doing? They really just grab Teal and throw her into a portal, and it's weird. But I'm trying to incorporate the idea that even the furniture, even this office, even the space itself seems in on the ploy to like grab Teal and get rid of her. Um, I have a really funny joke right here at the end. Um, Throughout all of this, they're like, chastising Teal. They're being a little sinister. They're like they're not placating her, but they're beating around the bush of like, oh yeah, haha. No, we're expelling you. No, we're doing worse than expelling you. Haha. And the joke I end up building to is not even really that good. I like it. I think it's clever. But just before she's tossed into the portal, the chancellor says, like, oh, don't worry, your next of kin will be notified of your tragic life ending banishment within 6 to 8 business weeks. And I love this petty little jab at like the insidious bureaucracy of capitalism. But unfortunately, I think this is going to have to get removed. It's just a little too out there. It's a little too far removed from the narrative at large that I don't think it has a place here. I love it as a joke. I think it's great. I don't know. Maybe I could sneak it in again, but I'm not very hopeful. It just kind of there's breaking the fourth wall, and then there's making bad jokes at the expense of the narrative, and I think this falls into that latter camp. Mm. Yep, that's a cold coffee. That's a cold coffee here, folks. You heard it first. My coffee's gone cold. Hate to see it. Hate to taste it. Actually, it doesn't taste that bad. Just the mouth feel is off. So Teal falls, right? Teal passes through the portal and she falls and she falls and she falls. It's meant to be kind of this nebulous moment. Um, but I think we need to add a little bit more of dread to Teal. Teal doesn't really feel much dread. She kind of just falls. She tumbled through the darkness for what felt like forever. Okay, great. There's timelessness. I love that. But Teal should be feeling things. Teal should be feeling anxious and doubtful and horrified and scared and plagued and wronged, right? All of these terrible things. And she should also have this mounting regret that something worse might happen. I got banished. What else is gonna happen? When something bad happens and you're just waiting for something worse to happen, that's kind of where Teal's at. Right? We need to add a little bit more of existential dread that she's fearful that like, oh, I might die. I might die here. What if it's worse than death? What if it's the worst thing ever? What if all of the worst things ever I've ever heard about aren't the worst things ever, and I am just about to fall into an even worser thing ever? What if that happened?
course, it doesn't. But like a pretty bad thing happens for sure. But well, whatever. There's worse things out there. Giant abyssal abomination. Whatever. There's worse things out there. Like Donald Trump, Elon Musk, the judiciary system. Yeah. Sorry, I'm really throwing I'm really throwing jabs all over the place here. I'm just really mad. The political landscape right now is horrible, and this is my only outlet. Is a place where I can speak to a forum of no one, a spot where no one will ever listen. I can have these thoughts out loud. Yes, of course, no one will ever hear them. Why would they? Partway into a discussion about a book no one's ever going to read. Yes, this is a very safe place for me to keep my bad political takes. I mean, frankly, I think they're pretty good, but I know the rest of the internet doesn't agree with me because it's full of fucking Nazis. Sorry, my mic peaked again. I'm talking about capitalism some more. Sorry. It makes me quite upset. Anyways, give me a second here. I'm swapping over to my water. I hit my boom mic too. Sorry if that picked up. Nothing better than a sip of water after a coffee. Let's get refocused here. What were we talking about? Yeah, we need some existential dread. Um, Weirdly enough, Teal's landing here doesn't have any impact. She should almost hit the ground, right? She's falling, she's falling, she's falling, she's falling. She should almost just suddenly hit the ground as if she like splat, Like she's a drop of ink falling, 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 and then boop, she hits a page, right? Her limbs should splay out. She should just hit the ground, almost like there's just like I'm gonna do it for you, just like that, right? Like meat hitting marble, right? Like a tile floor. That's what it should sound like. Not that my hands slapping together sounds like meat and marble tiling, but you get the idea, right? You get what I'm going for. Um, on that note of talking about marble tiling, I don't talk about the floor here very much. Um, I do really envision this glossy, pristine, almost kind of, I don't just want to say dreamy, almost that vaporwave style checkerboard pattern, right? Like that Microsoft 2000, that Windows 98 era generated 3D polygons, right? Where or like the Mac style. What's that album called? The one with the marble bust and the pink background and like whatever. I'm drawing straws here and they're not going anywhere. But I envision that style of strange, eerie, poorly generated in 3D, or maybe intentionally generated in 3D to be kind of like poorly reflective, too glossy. This checkerboard tiling of just very, very white tiles and very, very black tiles, and probably they're both resonating the sheen of like stars in a star space above that can't be perceived because it's just everywhere all at once. Um, in brackets here, I have kind of like the examination hall, and yeah, we can have a callback to that. Um, More specifically, if anybody's checked out my Hevna series, very similar to the level called the Ethereal Crux. There's a level where I think you play as Goji in that level, and the floor there, that intentionally early aughts generated 3D environment is exactly what this space should feel like. I don't know if it's going to be very easy. Like I'm already struggling trying to describe that without saying, "Hey, do you remember Captain Blasto? Do you remember Captain Blasto and how those levels were weird and nebulous and kind of just floating platforms of shiny polygons?" I don't know how I'm going to write a book that says that, but whatever. I'll figure it out when I get there. Um she really Teal ends up coming to the peak of her disoriented state really quickly. We should sit and linger and stay with her while she figures out, oh, I feel really sick. Oh no, I feel disgusting. I feel vile and both um, defiled and also nauseous. right? Like she's gonna be sick, and I don't know. I don't want to linger too much on the body horror here, but maybe we should. This is the one spot where body horror is kind of a thing, and it's not too grotesque. It's not too uh, visual or visceral, but we just get to it. We get to things too quickly, and that's not cool. We need to linger here for some time just so we can build up how terrible Teal feels right now. Uh, and on that note, we really need to push our usage of language to include more hideous, uncomfortable language to push this nightmaric segment of our dream sequence forward. Um, Not only do we need to alter what's being displayed, but the way in which we display it needs to work in tandem with what we're trying to uphold, what we're trying to show off, right? And there, unfortunately, there isn't just a great way to fix this, but we need to be aware that basically the back 3/4 of this chapter need to evoke a sense of dread and horror and terror and maybe a little bit of awe. That we just need to be describing things in ways that evoke disgust, that evoke discomfort, right? And that's not easy to just say out loud. This is a thing that's going to require very pointed and precise um, intent while writing. So it's not like I can sit here and say, oh, yes, this word here should be swapped with this word here because it would read better and it would evoke the things we're trying to present here. That's not how it works, unfortunately, but next time around, it's just something I got to be aware of. This might be an issue with pacing too, right? Or like just of word choice. We might just need some particularly foul descriptions. However we do it, we got to do it. That's just all there is to it. And if you knew it, then you knew it. But if you didn't, then you blew it. All right, I'll stop. A lot of this, I shouldn't say a lot, but definitely some aspects of this segment, especially here, feel really tame. They're a little too overt, too, which, like, neither of those are good things for a nightmare sequence. Um, I think we could go about using more illustrative, more poetic language to evoke readers' imagination without directly saying this is what it looks like. We can draw out things from people's, subconscious, their psyche, the shared collective of what a nightmare is, right? There are things that people very personally feel are nightmares, but there's also things on a survival level, on like a deeper reptilian brain level that are just like, oh, that's bad, right? You ask anyone, okay, I shouldn't say this, right? There's always exceptions, but puke, for instance, vomit, it's always gross. People naturally have a disgust response to vomit because it's their survival instinct saying, oh, that's unhealthy. That being over there is unhealthy. And it's the body's natural response to be like, oh, I shouldn't be near that because then I might get sick, right? Stuff like that. Stuff like that where it's just like, oh, on a deeper level, yeah, pretty much everyone ubiquitously thinks that's not good, right? Giant hideous monsters judging you. That's not good. Fire, right? Fire burning uncontrollably. That's not good. There's not a culture across the world that'll look at a fire consuming everything and think, oh yeah, that's a good thing. Unless it's like, I don't know, if you spun it as being the rapture, I'm sure you could get some stupid alt-right cuckolds on your side. Of course, you can do anything to get them on your side, apparently. Sorry, I really am trying to keep my anger and frustration at the world out of this episode. Yeah, much as horror is done in other media, we need to balance things here by providing evocative language while also letting readers' imaginations fill the gap, right? We can bring up hideous things. We can, like I was just saying, we can go to a baser level and talk about disgusting things, but at the end of the day, we need to let readers fill in those gaps. What is the disgusting thing? What is the hideous thing? What color does it look like? You know, what shape and texture would really rankle this individual? Well, we let them do the heavy lifting for us, right? We just give them enough to base things off of, and then we let them fill in the gaps, because what they're going to fill in the gaps with is always going to be scarier than whatever I can throw at them. Unless I'm just that much of like a god at describing otherworldly terrors, right? Unless you're like freaking Lovecraft and you just, well, I mean, Lovecraft didn't even do a good job scaring people. I mean, they did at the time. I don't know. I read Lovecraft and I wasn't a big fan. Granted, he was a big racist idiot, so whatever. It's easy to discount his work. It's always easy to discount the work of big racist idiots. Let that be the one thing that I say that goes down in history. Um, how far ahead of this are we? Um, right. So okay, yeah. So Teal's reaction to the big scary monster that appears is just too tepid. She should be panicked and thrashing and trying to get away. That's all this note is saying. She's just so muted by fear right now, and muted by fear isn't bad, right? That's a valid reaction, but she should be doing things at least, right? She should be wriggling or trying to get away or crawling, or like, we should talk about how entrenched in fear she is, that she's paralyzed at least. Right now she kind of just doesn't do anything, and that's not good. Um During this first segment, Teal should still be pretty disheveled, right? We were just talking about her uniform is busted up, how she just got out of this fight, how she's covered in cuts and bruises. Ooh, did this just disappear? I imagine we've not mentioned it because we failed to mention it earlier, but if we mention it earlier, she should still be very disheveled. Um, However, going forward, after this segment, this can be an aspect that just gets altered, right? She can just be fine in the next part. Her uniform can just be okay. She can even just be wearing different clothes, right? Like I have written here, when she's with the Zura, she can be wearing the robe she wore at home. We don't need to say why. We don't really need to linger on what it looks like. We can just say, oh, she's different now. Just as like another little strip to go alongside of the other strips that are twisting together to form this idea of, I think this is maybe a dream. Some of this isn't adding up. I think maybe it's a little dream. And maybe I'm thinking this from too much of a visual standpoint, right? These would be great little hints, great little visual hints that would tie into a sequence in an animation or a movie. And maybe I'm digging too deep into it, but I really like the idea that, yeah, the next scene, her uniform's fine. It's like it was just stitched back together. Oh, she's with the Zur. Oh, she's wearing her robes. Oh, she's at the table. She's at this gourmet table. Maybe she's wearing a dress. Maybe she's dressed up real fancy. Maybe she's just got her cloak on, right? Maybe she's back to what she was wearing when she was in the Sage's Tower. I don't know, but it's something we should include. Um, and maybe she thinks about this. This is just what this last note says. Maybe she just thinks about this. Whenever there's a change, maybe she thinks, wait, why am I wearing these robes? Wait, where did my school uniform go? Right? Just little things like that we can tie into this beat, this continuous drumming that happens throughout this chapter of Teal going, wait a minute, this isn't right. Hold on a second, this doesn't check out. Right? Because even Teal, and that's what we're trying to do, we're trying to lead readers into starting to think, I don't think this is right. And Teal, too, is coming to the point of starting to realize, right? And Teal's maybe a little late. The reader should be maybe thinking that in the last chapter. But Teal at this point is starting to think, I also don't think this is right. Hold on a second. Hold on a moment. Why is this weird? Why are things weird right now? And that's one way we can suggest it, by having her think things like that. There's a bit here where Teal starts. I've kind of lost where we are, to be honest with you. I'll pick it up again. But Teal starts to think about the passage of time, and just how uncertain she is of it. She starts to think, like, how long has it been? How long have I been stuck here? And that's good to bring up, but I'm not sure if right now is the time to do it. We do it in a segment where she's panicking, where she's afraid. And there's definitely going to be other things on her mind, right? Even throughout this entire bit, there's going to be other things on her mind. She's worrying. She's in a nightmare. She's not going to stop and think, wait a minute, what time is it? Right? We can have that happen earlier. We can have it happen later. We can have it stitched into a point where she isn't off her rocker panicking. But right now, to have it as it is, just very silly. Um, we need more acting with Teal's panic, especially just bodily movement, her just moving around in general. Um, she should be trying to get away, right? She should be trying to move, trying to do anything. But she, like I said earlier, she can be frozen, she can be paralyzed, but she should be trying to move. And that's, that would heighten that sentiment. Either she's trying to get away and just can't because she's dumb and scared, or she's trying to get away but she can't because her body just won't work right now because she's that scared, right? It heightens no matter how you do it, but just not doing it is a failure on my part. And on that note, she should just be persistently fearful throughout this entire back half of the chapter here. Um, we often get parts where it seems like, oh, I'm too helpless. I'm too scared to be panicked. Helplessness, and this ties back into what I was just saying, helplessness is an aspect of fear. It is part of panic. It's not separate from it. They're not, the helplessness doesn't stop you from feeling panic. It is part of it. You are panicking, and ergo, you feel helpless, right? You can be paralyzed by fear, but you should still be acting. You should still be feeling this helplessness. Your instinct is to get away, but you can't because you're so frightened, right? I don't know if this makes any sense, but that's what I'm going to tell myself in the future, and hopefully future me understands it. I get it right now. I don't know if that translates well going forward, but whatever. I tried my best, right? We just have to have her act a little bit more and express her fear in more contextual ways. As things stand right now, Teal's just playing like damsel in distress card, and I don't like how that reads. Um, so we start blurring the lines between this dream Teal and what I'm calling reality Teal, um, by saying she wants to go home, but alas, she was present. The sentiment is fine, but we really lacking some weight. Um, there's just like, okay, yeah, I love that she is present, right? She is here right now in this nightmare. But what are we doing with that? What are we doing with this tool? What are we doing with the weight? Nothing. We're just leaving it there. We're just leaving. We're just letting people sit with that yeah, she's stuck here, right? And I don't know, that's too contextually removed from the plot at large to have any gravitas, to have any real grip on the subcontext, right? Because sure, you can read more into that, but it's so far removed from everything in its present state that it's just, okay, it's just a throwaway line. That's not good. It should be a powerful line. Um, we really need to mention as well that there's maybe this pain in Dream Teal's chest, that there's almost this burning, that there's a hurt, that there's a weight almost tugging at her chest. Um, and we've totally just like 1000% left out the beating heart, right? We've been trying to build this motif for chapter after chapter, and we just completely leave out the beating heart from this entire segment. And man, that stinks. Why'd you do that? Why'd you do that, me, in the past? There's not a single heartbeat in this entire chapter. Ah, what a wasted opportunity. That in this notion of things not really mattering. What are we doing? Dropping the ball. That's what we're doing. Um. Oh wow, we are still way back here. Okay. Yeah, and it was disgusted. So what? Oh, pustule. I thought over here. I thought I was trying to spell subtle, and I just really botched it. So yeah, as mentioned previously, Teal ends up falling down this fissure. Teal ends up falling down this chasm that sort of spawns underneath her, and there's not really any pretext to it. there is a little bit. There's like ooh some rumbling, but we should just build this notion more that like yes, this monster is so enormous. When it moves, there are tremors. It cracks the earth, these tiles underneath it when it shifts and looms over Teal. Um, Maybe even the little, the like eyeball pustules explode as this rumbling happens. We just need to build a little bit more tension here before Teal falls through the earth into this chasm. Um, right now, it kind of just happens, and that's like whatever. It's not great. It's serviceable, but it could be better. We could really be building this scene. Um, So, like I said earlier, right, Teal should splat against the ground. It's right now that she hits the ground really hard after she falls through this chasm, and I just want to swap those ideas around. She's landing on this soft bed of moss. Why would she splat? Why would she hit it very hard? It doesn't run parallel with the structure we're building here. Earlier, when she's hitting tile, okay, she can splat. She can hit that hard, right? She can hit that hard and be dazed and nauseous and feel terrible. Here, it's Teal should just inexplicably find herself face down or face up, right? She should just be falling and then all of a sudden be on this patch of moss. We kind of need to push this notion forward a little bit more that yeah, things are getting kind of weird. There's just a disjointed point here where Teal was descending and now she isn't descending. And this happens again earlier where Teal's covered in spiders, suddenly she's rising through the floor, right? It doesn't need to make sense, but we just need to swap these ideas, or rather, swap this face plant, quote unquote, to earlier when I suggested it, and rewrite this part a little bit more. Um, we can even have Teal think like, "Oh wait, wasn't I falling?" Kind of like a like to break the trope in our own book. Um, we fail to address here, right? Where we're into the part now where Teal is on this bed of moss and there's these little tiny hands crawling all over here. And we fail to address the idea that the little lichen hands are slowly crawling over her. Um, this should be a really slow and hideous process. We don't really build on it at all. It's not a lot of tension that we're doing through here, but we should add it. There should be more, like I've been saying this whole time, more disgust, more nightmarish fuel. We need to incorporate the idea that, yep, these little lichen hands are just unstoppable little fiends from Gilligan's Island, right? Just tiny little creeps latching onto Teal and almost crawling over their kin, right? Making layer after layer like scales, burying her in their own spore colony. Um, we need to make the scene gross. And part of how we're going to make it a little more gross is by giving Teal some more panic once again. She's just not very scared. She just isn't acting fearful. She's just kind of like, this isn't good. Oh no. And then it happens and she doesn't do anything to try to stop it. She doesn't try to get out of the situation. She just, I don't know. She just lays there, right? She's just way too passive. I get it's a nightmare and maybe she's, things are kind of wild and crazy, but could she maybe do a thing? Could she maybe try to get out of the context? Um, I don't know why I have this written, but if throughout this segment, if Teal's anxiety were a line graph, there would be a small trough between falling, landing, and realizing that she's about to get buried alive by Mushroom Man. So we should have this dip and then start raising it up. Like, oh, you hit the ground. That's confusing. That's weird. Oh no, I'm being buried alive. Oh, that's really bad. Oh no, I can't breathe. Right? Like I just said, we're building up the tension, and as it stands right now, we're not really building up the tension. We're kind of just describing what's happening. A waste of potential. Um, there's this nice idea here afterwards, right? When she's in the next room, um, when it suddenly dawns on her that wait a minute, no, I'm not being buried anymore. I can move my body, and I really like the idea that Teal comes to the notion. She realizes, wait a minute, I can move. and her first instinct is to run, is to just book it. Um, it really sets the tone well. I think if we corroborate, if we mix this in, or even if we keep this right and mix in earlier that she's panicked, that she's frightened, that these scenes are disgusting and horrifying, that we give her a very brief reprieve, and her first idea is, I got to get the heck out of here. I don't care where it is. I'm just not going to be here anymore. That's delightful. That's wonderful. It's not even character building. It just grounds Teal as like a rational being, right? Um, and to just have that little note in the melody adds so much to the scene, especially her as a character. I hope that didn't pick up on Mike. That was Lenovo trying to sell me things through my Lenovo computer. Thank you, Lenovo, for all of your bloatware. I love it. I tried to get rid of most of it, but some of I can't because you're evil. Okay. Right. Another thing to complain about. Sorry, everyone. I'm going to have to title this the one where I complain about everything. Um, I also really like that the floor here is polished hardwood. I don't know. I'm getting like weird gymnasium vibes, weird like old high school gymnasium. Um, I think especially the fact that Azure appears in this spotlight that like clack and there she is. Uh, I don't know why. I don't know why this whole scene takes place in an auditorium, but I like it. It I don't know, kind of leans in on the idea of like stage fright, right? Or like that weird modern discomfort of, oh, I don't want to go back to high school. I hated that place. Um, so as it stands right now, Teal doesn't actually run, right? I was just saying how, sure, yeah, she runs and that great, but she doesn't actually run. She just thinks about it. She just thinks, I gotta get out of here. And then Azure appears and then she's like stalled. But I think she should. I think Teal should just physically start running. She should be in the situation where she's like, oh, I can move. I'm doing it. I don't care what's happening right now. She should just get up, start running, and then be cut off by this zombie Azure. I think that would lend a nice oomph to the beginning of the scene. Teal's trying to get out of the situation, and then bam, she's stopped by something. It could be anything, but oh, she squints and looks. Is that my sister? Is that my sister's armor? Is that my sister? Right? It makes the whole scene sing a little bit. Um, and like her running can be totally hopeless. We can even play on that a little bit, right? She can just be running and running and running and running. She can even be kind of like as if she's slipping on the floor. That's how polished it is beneath her feet. Very, very running up the stairs, Super Mario 64 style, right? Right? You've heard the song. You played the game. At least I hope you have. If you haven't played Super Mario 64, go play it. It still holds up. It's a solid game. It's clunky as heck, but it's a solid game. Good level design. Good ideas. A lot of really good ideas in that game. But yeah, like the staircase. Didn't that game have an infinite hallway too? I forget. Anyways, you get the idea. We can play with some more theming here, and it will help the overall structure of these larger concepts that we're trying to build, right? The panic, the fear, the this kind of like unworldly disgust. It's just another little garnish, right? We're building a cake and we're just topping it with all sorts of garnishes, with all sorts of toppings. And at the end of this cake, it's just going to be piled with sprinkles. There's going to be a layer of cake and then a heap of sprinkles. And that's how we're going to build horror. We're going to make a sprinkle cake cuz ain't no one want to slice a sprinkle cake. Just kidding. I would totally eat a slice of sprinkle cake. I bet it's delicious. Oh man, they had a rainbow cake at 7-Eleven. Ugh. Ugh, I wanted a slice so bad. It was only like $2 too. Maybe it was 3. I actually don't remember. I was too busy looking at the cake. Let's keep moving on here. We're Nora. Well, we'll get there. We'll get there when we get there. What's next here? I wonder if there's a way to evoke a sense of zooming in. Um, okay, that's a fun idea. So yeah, right now right now Azure peels off her eye patch, and this is what I do over here, right here on the right. Bit by bit by bit by bit, I almost staccato the beat. I draw it out. But I want this sensation that we're zooming in on it. That each time Azure peels off a little more, the camera's getting a little closer to her eye, and we're starting to see the socket where her eye was as the eye patch moves away. And as the socket deepens and becomes darker, we start to hear the scuttling of little legs until we start to see some crawling out of her eye, right? And I just want this slow, irreversible build of disgust. I hate that I keep saying disgust, but there's only so many words I can use to describe horror. Maybe if I had a dictionary with me right now, I'd find some more, but I don't. But just so we can build this slow boiling of ew, yucky. I don't. Oh, she's still. Oh, and there's spiders in there. Ew. We could really play with this moment in particular, and I think we should. But how to go about it, I'm not terribly certain. Um, the suggestion my note here says is maybe we could just describe the action with more acute detail, kind of like how I just did, right? Focally, I was saying with the eye patch and the socket and the spiders, right? If we just describe each step in the sequence before the spiders spew out with more and more detail, as if there's this slow, inevitable climb towards a climax that we're getting to, but we don't know when the tension's going to be broken. Similar to how, like, um, never mind. I was about to make a really bad analogy, but I just won't. But yeah, we need to, I think, take the reins here in this scene, specifically in this segment, to, beef it up a little bit. Um, so yeah, after this happens, right, the spiders crawl all over Teal, and then she's just suddenly rising, right? She just finds herself. Teal then found herself rising briskly. She only knew this from the rush of air beating down on her, right? There is absolutely no pause between covered by spiders and sitting on a chair being lifted up to the heavens. We need just a little bit of oblivion, just a little smattering here, so that there's a pause between the two segments. The pacing is just too. We're getting a whiplash almost from how quickly things pivot here from covered in spiders to not covered in spiders. We need just a breather, just a before we carry on. And we can just talk about how Teal, like in her frazzled state, feels like she's passed out or something, right? She blacks out. Anything. We can shoehorn pretty much anything, even if it's just a sentence between these two paragraphs, and it will make both of the paragraphs stronger because of it. Um, so Teal is in this banquet hall. Teal's in this banquet hall, and there's this plethora, this cornucopia of salivating or saliva. How would you say that? Salivating? I mean, the food itself isn't salivating. It just make Teal salivate. I had to take a drink. Sorry, I've been talking too dang much. Um, that's funny because this was the reason I wanted to stop doing the streams. Is that talking for 2 hours straight really hurts my throat. But alas, I must do it for Teal. But she's at this banquet, and everything is super tantalizing. We almost, maybe this is a little cartoonish of me, but I want there to be almost a sinister air to the aroma, as if the scent of all of this food itself is wafting through Teal's nose and picking her up and causing her, pulling her by the nose towards the food, as if, we as viewers know, Teal, you should not be trusting food that tantalizes you, that intoxicates your olfactory to such the extent that it lifts you off of the ground and pulls you towards it. Miss Evergarden, please, where is your head? Right? But Teal just goes, food smell good. Me go eat food. Right? Very cartoonish, very Looney Tunes style. But I love the idea that the food is evil and it's beckoning her. It's just calling her sweetly. Oh, come eat me, Teal. Come feast. You don't have to go anywhere. It's fine. You can just sit here and eat forever. It's okay. Um, Mostly because we're just like toying with the idea that Teal is this, like a weirdly gluttonous individual who has this ravenous appetite, and she has yet to sate herself on anything throughout her journey. A lot of her journey has been, I'm hungry. And this is just the peak of the mountain of Teal just being tormented, right? And that's kind of what we're going for in this part. It's just Teal being a little tormented. Um, there's not a lot of atmosphere to the weird room. I don't know if that was very evident earlier, but I don't describe very much in this room, and that's not good. We should really build the room as a setting because this entire last part takes place in this room. And I believe if we establish it as a very eerie space, it will help the entire scene read better. Um, a suggestion I have here is an auditory component, the slow ticking of a grandfather clock, just like off to the side behind Teal. If we include something like that, that can be something that she smashes later, right? There's no harm in adding another thing for Teal to smash and break and clobber later on. In fact, if the ticking starts to bother her, we could even play with that. Maybe the ticking starts to synchronize with her beating heart, tick, bump, tick, bump, tick. Or we could like batik, 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 right? Anything that we can use to heighten the situation that Teal am anxious, Teal am feel no good. And that freaking clock needs to go, man. Um, just as like, an eerie, droning, monotonous tone. I think it could help the scene. Uh, oh, I kind of mentioned that the room is endless, right? It seems to stretch on forever to either side, but we just need a little bit more weight to the whole notion. Um, I berate myself here in my notes that, like, yeah, just saying it stretches on to both sides forever is way too trite. It's just such an easy hand wave, like, ooh, yeah, it stretches on forever. We can dig our teeth into how endless, how repetitive, how the wallpaper seems to just repeat itself over and over and over again, how there doesn't seem to be uh, blemishes or anything about, or how on earth are there this many seats at this table? How are there only so many legs at this table? Like, is it just floating here? That's kind of weird, right? Anything we can do to suggest that the room is this kind of pocket dimension, this like hellish pocket dimension. Uh, oh, this is a good idea. So one way I suggest doing that is maybe as Teal is gawking at the food, we have sort of these side notes about the room. She's trying to get her bearings. She's trying to observe the room and the environment at large, but she keeps being distracted by the food. So, as an example, she'll be looking at the table and appreciating the craftsmanship, but her eyes just keep coming back to the plate of bread, to the bowl of soup, to the glass of wine. She looks to her side to observe the sconces. She's like, wait a minute, how is this room being lit? Ah, sconces, okay. Well, yeah, they're pretty, but so are these deviled eggs, right? Little things like that. Um, this would kind of help build the idea that this is a dreamy environment. Um, while one is dreaming, they don't necessarily take in the whole scene as one, because when you're in real life, you look at things, right? You just look and you're like, okay, well, I know what the room looks like. I saw it with my eyes. I looked with my peepers and I saw them. That's not really how dreams work. You can be in a space in a dream and be like, okay, I know I'm in a space, but what did it look like? Well, I don't know because dream me wasn't looking at it. Until dream you is very aware that a part of a space is there, it's just like, okay, well, it doesn't exist, right? A dream people don't have object permanence. They're like babies. I wonder what happens when babies dream. Do babies dream? Huh, that's kind of a weird question. We should try to find that one out. Yeah, so we can do that to heighten the dreamlike sense here. And okay, that's fine. Yep. So this is just me saying that we can do this, right? We can have this back and forth between the setting and the food and break it up with little bits of, oh, but that didn't matter right now. But that didn't seem to concern Teal right now. That doesn't seem like much of an issue right now. Teal can be staring at the repetitive sconces and thinking, wait a minute, are those even lit? Is that even fire in those? Like, how are those light bulbs? What's going on there, right? Just little things like that, and then just trail back to, oh, but that didn't really matter right now. Teal put that aside for the time being as she stared at the salad to her left, right? And little things like that, just so we can keep this theme going. We dropped the heartbeat theme pretty bad, but we kept this it doesn't matter theme going pretty well. But I also think we should dig into that a little more too. Um, this is me just berating myself. I mentioned sauteed greens, but I don't mention a single vegetable. Um, just something for me to fix going forward. Um, so we talk a lot about the food that's right before Teal, but we get a little sense for the banquet. Is the food? It's almost as if the food on display right in front of Teal is only what's there. But it should be more this idea that the entire table, this whole realm that has no stop, right? One end cannot be reached, neither can the other. It is an infinite dimension, and it should almost be as if the banquet right in front of Teal is just as infinite, right? But as it is right now, it's almost like the table's infinite, but there's just a small part where Teal's sitting that has food in front of it, which is kind of funny, but it doesn't fit what we're trying to go for here. We really just need to like control T on the food and grab the anchors and stretch them out to the ends of the table. We need to make the banquet as big and overflowing and as infinite as the room and the rest of its furniture. Um, so yeah, I don't know if you can read my notes from here, but uh, basically I just kind of pop off, right? Most of the chapter here is actually me just describing food. And I do this, I promise I do this for a reason, right? I'm trying to build the idea that Teal is ravenous. Teal is starving. Teal is even dreaming about food. She's gone through a nightmare and she stops the nightmare and goes, oh, but what if there were macarons? Oh, what if there was a steak? Oh, what if there was Peking duck? Oh, my mouth. Oh, I'm drooling, right? That's how hungry Teal is. Teal puts her nightmare on pause and goes, but I'm hungry. What if I just dream about food? And so I take the time to really dial in the food because I know Teal would be obsessed with it, right? Teal, the gluttonous little half elf who's just always thinking about food, would absolutely have a dream about the most perfect mashed potatoes that she's ever seen in her whole little life. So, needless to say, most of the descriptions hold up to scrutiny. Um, this mention of Peking duck is actually kind of a play on. Right now, I mention a duck cooked in her hometown style. But basically, yeah, that's me just saying, I she's from like the equivalent of Beijing, right? She's from the equivalent of her country's capital city. And yes, I know Beijing has not been the capital of China for most of its history, right? If I really wanted to do this, I'd probably pick like a local dish from Chang'an or maybe even Luoyang. But alas, I'm dummy and I didn't do that. But I like that it's a thing that we're trying to incorporate Teal's cultural background into her food, into the world building. Um, yeah, this is me just saying points like that, little inclusions like that will have way more weight in draft two because draft two Teal is way more clueless. So her having a moment of like, oh yeah, I remember this very regional version of a dish. I remember a very regionally specific food for my culture. That's wonderful. I'm going to stuff my face into it now. Is going to have a lot more weight, a lot more punch to it if Draft Teal is bumbling around going, oh, I can't remember anything. Um, this idea that wasn't I waiting for someone should be something that becomes louder and louder. You know, maybe it's even something we start to write with like the subtext with really tiny font, and it grows every time it's mentioned until Teal just can't ignore it anymore. Um, it might even get to, it might even culminate. Maybe even as it grows in power, it grows in clarity, and Teal starts to think, wait, yeah, no, I was waiting for someone. I was waiting for dot, dot, dot. And we never want to be too forceful with it. It's just something that should sting Teal. And we never want to get to the crux that it's so and so waiting for her. I can't exactly remember who it is who's waiting for her because somebody came and scribbled it out on my document. Unfortunately, I don't know what kind of rascal would have done that, but we never want to get to the point where Teal absolutely definitively remembers who it was she was waiting for, or who in fact may or may not have been waiting for her. We just kind of want to insinuate here. We're pushing this ball along, and bit by bit, Sisyphean perhaps, but we're rolling the ball uphill towards its destination. And part of that is Teal coming to this realization that, like, oh yeah, wait a minute, I was waiting for someone, huh? Yeah, and we never say who, right? There's still parts that Teal hasn't pieced together yet, but we can use this kind of as motivation for this building crescendo that's kind of bubbling away, boiling in the background here. Teal has some heartache, and it's just too sudden, right? She like discovers, yeah, so I was waiting for someone, and there's some heartache here, and she should really, like I said, these things are boiling in the background. Why does she just suddenly come to the realization and go, oh, oof, oh, my heart, oh no, the swain, right? Let her develop into these feelings. Um, we should use this, right? The beginning of this beat should be what triggers her doubts, should be what triggers her to start thinking, wait, I don't think this is actually real. I don't think what's going on here is perceivable. I think that all of this right in front of me might be fake. This is what leads her to think, how did I get here? And then to build off that, her realization ought to be where her mania comes from. As if she's stumbling through this and coming upon the clues of, like, oh, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, until everything just starts to unravel around her. Um, this whole last bit, this whole culminating, frantic plethora of information should be these waves, right? It should be wave after wave of growing intensity of this oncoming storm. So that once we get to the end here, when Teal just loses it, it makes a little bit more sense. It kind of comes out of nowhere right now, but it really shouldn't. We should have this building, unsettling current, right? Like we mentioned, we got something boiling in the background here, and it's more like a soup, right? There's a lot of parts that's bubbling, that's starting to simmer, that's starting to gather heat in the background here, and they're all starting to come together. We've been adding little things to this pot. We've been building the roe and adding the stock, the meats, the vegetables. We're building it all. We're putting it all together, and only now is it starting to boil and turn into this delicious soup that we're about to enjoy right here at the end of the chapter. And the end of the chapter is this, this wonderful appetizer of a soup that we're about to chow down on. And the soup involves Teal absolutely trashing the place, Teal setting fire to everything, and low-key killing herself in the process. And if that isn't a good soup, I don't know what is. I don't know what y'all call a good soup if that ain't it. But yeah, this is just to say we need to take a step back here and kind of build things more thoughtfully, because right now they're kind of just scattered. It's as if I took these ingredients and kind of just went and blew them all into the pot. I hope that picked up on mic. I actually don't know if it did. And they're just scattered all over the place, and that's not good. The individual pieces are all really nice, but we need to take them back and refine them and put them in properly. Um, there's really a lack of chaos as Teal jumps onto the table. There should be this big mess, right? The plate should shatter, food should splatter. She should make a big mess. It should be all over her boots. You know, the table should creak underneath her, right? She should be scuffing the table. She should be scratching it with her shoes. Um, what she's doing right now is barbaric. It's furious. She's acting on impulse. She's kind of just lashing out, and her action should support that. The results of her action should support that too. Um, this is me kind of just saying maybe she should reach for the nectarine with a little more trepidation. Um, and I shouldn't lean on this idea of this nectarine being tantalizing just because the reader should know, right? What we talked about with Teal and the nectarine in chapter 7, that was over 20 chapters ago. That's a long time. We shouldn't just assume readers are going to remember that. That's not very fair. So we should describe this nectarine as having kind of these heavenly qualities. It seems too good to be true. It seems so succulent and so delicious and so juicy, as if it was crafted by the gods, right? As if it was born from an immortal tree of the what's that tree from Journey to the West called? The eternal root cinnabar tree or something like that, right? This should be a pristine, perfect piece of fruit that is just calling to Teal. It has a siren song that's heard by not only her ears but her soul. Um, and then she can take a bite out of it, and then it can turn into dust in her mouth, and then it really sucks. We shouldn't just assume readers know that yeah, Teal really, really, really likes nectarines. That's kind of just cheat. It's cheat. It's cheap. Um, so we need a bit here where Teal's transition from panic to realization to mania. Right now, it kind of just all coagulates in one wave of the hand, which, as I mentioned earlier, isn't good. We're trying to build things in the background here. They're coming to a threshold. The energy is building, and we don't get that building. We just get to the it's like we turned away for a second. It's like we were making our soup and we left it on the burner and we turned away for a second and we turned back and our soup is bubbling over. Oh no, right? It just got straight to the boiling bit. We didn't see the part where the bubbles start to come up, where we have to stir it, where we see the oils start to separate. Right? We didn't get to any of that. We just got to the boiling soup, and that's not good. And maybe we burned it. I don't know. But we need some more transitions going on throughout here. Um, we really need to describe the impact of this nectarine as she hucks it against a wall, the destruction of the scene before and around her. We need to describe all of Teal's motions as being super, super satisfying. That just destroying all of this stuff, this wanton, brazen uh, collateral damage, feels so good to Teal right now. Right? Almost like she hit that point of a lucid dream where she's like, oh, yeah, I know what I'm doing. And what I'm doing is breaking everything. Right? You ever heard of those? What are they called? The destructions rooms, where they lock you in a room with a bunch of furniture and they just give you a baseball bat and they say, okay, have fun. Have fun breaking shit. That's kind of what Teal should be feeling right here. She should feel just this freedom, this liberation that, yeah, I'm going to just break everything because none of this is real and none of it really matters and I don't give a shit. And by doing that, or in doing that, we really need to lean into the sensory inputs. We need to make this rampage feel visceral. We can even slow down this, that this just happens, right? This just happens in all of 3-4 paragraphs. We can slow this down. We can pump the brakes. We can let Teal really sink her teeth into maybe literally this whole segment and just go wild. We can harken back to the specific dishes that we just painstakingly described, right? And maybe that'll even add more weight to it. If we took all of this time to describe this beautiful fluffy plate of potatoes and then Teal just stomps into it. Teal just sinks her foot into the potatoes and they splatter everywhere. They get all over the walls and all over the chandelier and all over her face, but she doesn't give a shit because they're not real, right? Just little things like that. Just so we can make her feel pretty crazed, right? That she is enjoying this moment of unrestrained madness. We're getting there. Page 8, we're getting there. I gotta take another drink. My throat is dry. I don't know how people do this. I don't know how people stream for hours at a time and just talk and talk and talk. I mean, I get it, right? Yeah, like I do it. I don't feel like this when I'm doing my Zelda stream. But that's because I'm not talking incessantly. These streams, it's just, hey, buddy, you got some more to say? Yeah, I sure do. I always have more to say. And like the worst part is, but when I don't have the mic in front of my face, when I don't have to record for a podcast, I'm pretty quiet. I don't talk that much. I mean, like I yap when I'm with my friends. I try to listen. I do a pretty good job of listening. I hold a good conversation, I like to think. But yeah, man, if I don't have a mic on, if I'm just by myself, I mean, okay, who am I kidding? I talk to myself all the time. Yeah, I'm not building a good case for myself. Comment rescinded. Let's power through the last part of this stream, folks. We don't have too much left. Um, so I really like that Teal lights the room on fire. That's wonderful. It's great, especially because there's a part in the back burner project I'm working on right now where the character in that story also envisions himself burning down a room and with burning it down with them inside. It's a good little see through. What's that called? A through line. It's a good through line. Um, Yeah, but we totally forget some parts of the process, right? We totally forget that she is supposed to light the chair legs on fire. Um, Basically, as it's written right now, is there's the candelabra and she just kicks it over and everything catches fire. But I totally forget to include the fact that she is intentionally trying to spread the fire. She is supposed to take the chair leg, light it on fire, and bring it around the room and light other things on fire, and then pitch it. Right? She's supposed to take these chair legs and just pitch them throughout the room so that the fire spreads even further. I don't mention any of that. Um, and we can even frame this little note here as something of a test, as if Teal's like, oh, wait a minute, will it burn? Can I just light this whole place on fire? Like she's coming to the notion of, oh yeah, this is a dream. What can I get away with? What sort of dumb stuff can I get away with right now? Because none of this really matters. And she's not totally convinced, right? Deal's not super convinced this is a dream. It feels pretty real, but she's just at a point of like disparity and depression where she's like, I don't care if it's real. I just want to light things on fire. And if I die in the process, then so be it. I don't care. I don't care if I die in a terrible blaze of agony and pain. It's better than whatever this is right now. It's better than the internal suffering of whatever I'm dealing with outside or within this tree. And so her testing out the fire should be just that. It should be a little test. We should really include a line here of like manic laughter. This hideous, malicious laughter. It can just be like a really cringy, all caps, ha 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 ha, right? Anything, it would be really out of character, but I don't think that really matters. We need to accent this zenith of Teal's hysteria. We need something in here to just tip off the readers, in case you weren't reading very closely, in case you weren't cluing in that she's lighting the room on fire and she knows what she's doing is incredibly dangerous and she knows that she's probably going to die in the process. She's off her rocker, folks. Here she is just laughing like crazy. And I even thought, right, and this is going to tie into things, so hold on, right? There's some asterisks here, and there's some asterisks that lead into other asterisks. Is it asterisks? Or is it asterisks? Or is it astri? Astri doesn't sound work. Doesn't sound work? It doesn't sound like it works. It sounds like somebody plays Overwatch 2 too much. I'm looking at you, Matt. Matt would never watch this stream. Who am I kidding? I hope you're winning in Diamond League or whatever you're at. He's probably way further than Diamond League. Anyways, back on target. Um, if we are going to have a laugh here, it should probably be in a different font. And if it's going to be in a different font, it should use a similar font to a certain someone who we're going to talk about in a few chapters. I might name drop them later, but it's not in my notes, so I won't name drop them now. But what I'm trying to do is build a bridge between Mania and a character we're going to meet later. Okay. And once we meet that character later, y'all are going to understand explicitly what I'm talking about now. But right now, you're probably just kind of like, oh, I don't get it. Which is fine. It's fine to not get it. That's part of the book. That's part of the process. You're allowed to not get things. I don't get most things. And that's the wonderful, beautiful part about life is I don't understand most things, but when I do understand them, when somebody teaches them to me, when I do understand things, it's great. It's wonderful. Understanding things is super. Even when they conflict with your worldview, it's good to like understand that okay, other people hold this value in mind, and sometimes they're just really wrong though, and that's part of understanding is understanding that sometimes people are just really wrong. Moving on before I get rambling again. Moving on. We need some laughter in here. We need some more inclusion about the fire. That's it. This madness got to just be pumped up to 11. That's what we want here. The overall ending is really lovely. The hopelessness is great. We do forget, absolutely 100%, we totally forget to talk about the Swain, though. We do not name drop him. We don't mention him. We don't talk about if Teal's waiting for someone. All of that effort we've been building to just goes right down the drain. There needs to be this sting of bitterness that, especially in and during her rampage, that Teal's concerned for someone. Teal is longing for someone. Teal is really bothered by this idea that A, she can't remember who was she waiting for, and B, she's uncertain if she was really ever waiting for someone. And probably C, right? I don't have this written down, but probably a factor of it is C. She's maybe starting to coalesce within her that, oh, no, I wasn't waiting for someone. They were maybe waiting for me. And what did I do that they're waiting for me? Who did I leave? Right? And Teal should throughout this have this terrible pang of sorrow that she can't remember, that she feels like she should remember, and that she feels like she did something wrong. And maybe not that she did something wrong, but that's just like something is barring her from resolving what she thinks should be done. Right? Teal feels like someone's waiting for her. She wants to get back to them, but she can't. Right? Why can't she? Well, we'll talk about that later. Right now, it's just something we need to include here maybe a little bit because we just haven't talked about the Swain at all. So we get back to my note earlier, right? I have a thing here that says, hold that thought. We come back to the thought. We held that thought. Oh, okay. So in the next chapter, we're going to have some dialogue with a creature, right? We'll get to the next chapter when we get there, but just trust me on this. I wrote the book. You can trust me on this. I know what happened in the next chapter. This creature, this weird little creature, should have their speech in their own eerie little font. Okay? Right? This is just on a visual level, it would just look good, but on a deeper level, we're trying to convey that yes, they're a nightmare. They're basically the embodiment of these last 4 chapters, this little creature. So we need them to have kind of a spooky, scary font that embodies that exemplifies that. They are a being that terrifies Teal, right? And so we can use that font and run with it. This is all just y'all are in extra credit territory right now. Don't worry about it. You can honestly, you can skip to the end of the video. This last part's probably not going to make sense. You can come back to this part after you finish chapter 35. It'll make way more sense. Once you finish chapter 34 and 35, probably chapter 33 too, honestly, this part will make a lot more sense. But we need to take that font that the little nightmare creature is using and use it again in chapter 35 when Teal meets a different person, because we're trying to correlate that this different little person is maybe freaking Teal out, and maybe Teal is starting to think, hold on a minute, are you the nightmare from my dream? Am I still in the I don't think I ever woke up. right? We're planting all of these seeds that, oh, Teal isn't sure if she's ever been dreaming or if she's ever woke up. Has she just been sleeping this whole time? And we never tell the readers. We never tell the readers um, because that's why, because I don't want to. Because it's more fun that way to be kind of a dickhead about it. But here we are. So we should use this font. We need a little nightmare font for the nightmare creature that we use again for a character that we meet in chapter 35, so that we can tie together this idea that Teal's creeped out. Um, when Teal meets this creature again, though, right? Teal meets them once, she meets them twice. When she meets them the second time, we should use this font, but in a lighter sense. It should be a font that mimics that, so that we can further push this idea that Teal still recognizes that, yeah, they kind of creep her out. Yeah, they recognize that they're a little weird, but she's grown as an individual and she's willing to recognize that this individual too, despite their weirdness, despite their oddity, has redeeming qualities and they are worthy of her attention rather than her ire. But they still do scare her a little bit, right? Um, and on an additional note of that, right? An asterisk to the asterisk, right? And we're almost done here. We're almost done, I promise. Is that we need to, in the chapter afterwards, right? Chapter 35, chapter 36, and chapter 37, Teal meets another individual who kind of creeps her out. Not nearly as much as the one in chapter 35, not nearly as much as the nightmare, but that character should also have their own font. And this last part is me just goofing around with the idea of like, man, should every character just have their own font? I don't know. Should Teal have her own font? I don't. I really like the idea of Teal having her own font. I really like the idea of having Teal having a speaking font, Teal having a thinking font, and Teal having like a sort of like we just mentioned, Teal when we're describing that she's losing herself to mania can have a separate font, right? We can just use all sorts of fonts. Every character can have fonts that are maybe similar to their style, to their um, traits, right? Like, for example, the bard might have sort of a light cursive. Uh, the merchant might have more of a structured serif style. Um, who else? Like the guard, right? Maybe not the guard. The sentinel would probably have a very light, nonchalant style to their font. And we can just use this as like very colorful, imaginative visual character building, which personally I've never seen in books. And from my brief foray into trying to make this happen in draft 2, I understand why, because it's really hard to get everything to work together to make all fonts readable and all fonts unique, and also to have them work together and have all the kerning and the spacing work out. Very difficult. That's just what all these last points say, is that yeah, I think I love the idea. I love the idea of every character having their own font, but practically, physically, in a printing format, in a reading format, I just don't think it would work out, which is really upsetting. So I'm gonna keep trying with it. That's where this stream is gonna end off. I'm gonna keep trying with the fonts, and hopefully I figure something out. I think one day I'm probably just gonna end up putting the book together in my own software. I think I'm probably going to end up self-publishing, and which sucks. It sucks a lot because that means I have to do all of the layout work. But a plus side to that is that I get to do all of the layout work. So maybe we do have a version. Maybe there is a way for me to painstakingly work out all of the spacing for all of the different fonts that would be needed to suggest that every character is a unique, beautiful individual with their own font. Um, is that viable? Is it believable? We'll see there. We'll see there. We'll see when we get there. If y'all can't tell, I'm fading away. I've been at this for like 2+ hours. I've talked way too much. My throat is sore now. Um, and that's that. We've gotten to the end of the notes, right? That's chapter 32. It's a bit of a mess, which it's supposed to be. It's a great big nightmare fueled explosion from start to finish, and that's okay, right? That's what it's supposed to be. Um, there's a lot to fix. There's a lot to fix here, but there's a lot of really good stuff too. I think if we really double down on pushing the misery, the disgust, the hideous nature of things, and work in more descriptive language with our, just by using more illustrative words, by building more malice, by structuring the pacing of the chapter overall. I think if we take more of a more thoughtful approach to the entire endeavor, we can come out of this ordeal with a more polished and superior chapter that will better present what I want to get across and will be more entertaining and more enriching for readers to experience. Which, at the end of the day, what more could I ask for? People enjoying my book more? Yeah, of course, I want that to happen. People understanding the subtext and the minutia of details that I want to get across. Yeah, that sounds pretty fantastic if you ask me. There's a lot of ways we got to go about this. We got to mention what Teal's longing for, what she's afraid of. She has to act more on her panic. That was a big one. Um, and as far as like the whole font thing, I don't know. I don't know. I really like it as an idea. Um, but we'll see. Going forward, I'll just have to experiment with it and see what works and what doesn't. My initial experiments have been pretty rotten. The only thing I've really tried right now is trying to do Teal's thoughts in a different font. I went out and looked for a good font that I thought would be really good for Teal's thoughts, and it just ended up, once I tried putting it with the text document, it just became illegible. The spacing between the letters was just so tight, and the script was so fine that you couldn't make up the words at all. Which, if you want to read a book, that kind of defeats the purpose, doesn't it? But I'll keep at it, folks. For the time being, thanks for coming. Thanks for listening. I know this was a very dry stream, and hey, they're not supposed to be fun. Like I've said in the past, these streams are more for my benefit than anything else. But hopefully, in the future, maybe people will take more of an interest in this once they start reading my book and go, "Huh, I wonder what went into making that." Then, hey, hi, this is what went into making it. A lot of me talking into a microphone to no one in particular. A lot of notes that really will only exist temporarily, and then further, like, are the stepping stone towards a second draft, and the second draft itself is kind of just a stepping stone towards a polished final product. um but yeah, that'll do it for today. Thanks for coming, everyone. I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope you had a good time. I hope you enjoy the rest of your whatever time it is for you presently, whenever you're watching this. I hope you have a good one. I hope you eat some tasty stuff. I hope you remember to drink water, because boy, my throat is dry. Drier than the Sahara, folks. Drier than the Gobi. Drier than the what's that other one? Um, the one in Nevada. The Mojave? Yeah, that's it. Drier than the Mojave. There's another big desert out there, isn't there? Whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyways, drink lots of water, folks. Stay healthy. Stay active. Stay in good health. The next time you see me, I might have glasses on. Probably not, but wouldn't that be fun? Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Maybe if I remember, I'll put glasses on my model. That'd be cute. For now, folks, though, thanks as always for coming, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.